Her name was Hana Murakami. At 18, she was in her final year of high school in Kanagawa, a quiet prefecture not far from Tokyo. Her life was a mixture of textbooks, club activities, and the delicate weight of expectations that hung over every student preparing for graduation. Hana wasn't the type of girl who filled the hallways with laughter or drew attention with bright hairpins. She was reserved, soft-spoken, always with her notebooks perfectly stacked and her uniform neatly ironed. Teachers liked her for her diligence, classmates for her kindness. She was the sort of person who slipped through the crowd without leaving ripples, and yet those who knew her well could sense a calm strength beneath her quiet surface. Every morning she walked the same route to school, passing the small bakery that filled the street with the smell of sweet bread, crossing the bridge where sunlight reflected off the river. She would greet the old fisherman there, bow lightly, and continue on. It was an ordinary life, safe, predictable, until the ordinary started to tremble. Ryo Hayashi had been part of that tremor. He was also 18, her classmate since middle school. Unlike Hana, he carried himself with a restless energy, hair always a little too long for the school's strict code, smile just a bit too carefree. Teachers scolded him for being distracted. Friends teased him for chasing after impossible dreams. But Hana had always noticed how quickly he defended someone being mocked, how he volunteered to clean the classroom when others had already gone home. He wasn't reckless, just stubbornly sincere. Their relationship began quietly. After a long group study session at the library, Ryo had walked her home through the drizzle, holding his jacket above her head like a makeshift umbrella. Hana remembered the way his hand trembled when he offered it, how he laughed awkwardly when their shoulders brushed. It wasn't fireworks or dramatic confessions. It was the slow warmth of someone standing beside you and not leaving. By spring, they were inseparable. They studied together, shared lunch under the cherry trees, whispered about the future when the school roof was empty at dusk. Hana had never felt this kind of closeness before. The fragile certainty that someone else's heartbeat mattered more than her own. But certainty could be cruel. The first time she felt the nausea, she told herself it was stress. Exams were coming after all. When her uniform skirt tightened, she blamed the summer heat. Yet as the weeks passed, the signs grew heavier, impossible to ignore. She bought a test at a pharmacy far from her neighborhood, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the box. That night, alone in her room, she pressed the result against her chest, hoping the thud of her heart might drown out the truth. Pregnant. The word itself seemed too large for the small space of her bedroom. She sat on the floor, knees drawn to her chest, as the ceiling fan spun slowly above. Her life, once neatly measured in semesters and test scores, had split open. She thought of her parents, of her father's stern face at dinner, of her mother's gentle questions about school. She thought of Ryo, his clumsy laughter, his promises about someday. Would someday survive this? The next morning she tried to carry herself as if nothing had changed. She tied her hair back, adjusted her uniform, walked to school along the same route. But every step felt heavier. The bakery smell made her stomach turn. The river seemed too loud, and when Ryo called her name across the classroom, her throat closed. She managed a smile, but it was thin, fragile. She knew she couldn't hide it forever. She knew her world was about to fracture. And when the final bell rang, she whispered to herself, almost like a prayer, "I have to tell him." Hana waited until the classroom emptied. The scraping of chairs, the chatter of friends planning karaoke, the slam of the sliding door, all of it faded, leaving only the faint smell of chalk and the ticking of the wall clock. Ryo leaned against her desk, tapping a pencil absent-mindedly, his bag slung carelessly over one shoulder. "You look pale," he said. "Are you okay? Did you skip lunch again?" Hana opened her mouth, but the words clung to her throat. She wanted to pretend, to smile and say she was fine, but the test result weighed on her like a stone hidden in her pocket. She gripped the edge of the desk until her knuckles whitened. "Rio," she whispered, I need to tell you something." The pencil stilled. He turned serious now, his eyes narrowing with concern. "What is it?" Her lips trembled. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was thick, almost unbearable. The world outside continued, students laughing in the hallway, a ball bouncing in the courtyard. But inside that classroom, time froze. Rio stared at her as if he hadn't heard right. "You're... what?" She forced herself to meet his gaze. "I took the test. Twice. I'm sure." For a long moment he didn't breathe. Then he let out a laugh. Too quick, too nervous. "That's... wow. Okay. He raked his hands through his hair, pacing in a small circle. Hannah, we're still in school. Tears stung her eyes. "I know. I didn't plan this. Her voice cracked. She bit her lip, trying to hold back the sob rising in her chest. He stopped pacing and crouched in front of her. His hands hovered for a second, before resting gently on her shoulders. "Hey, don't cry, please. We'll figure this out." She blinked at him. "We?" "Of course," he said firmly, as if saying it made it true. "I'm not going to leave you alone in this. It's my responsibility too." Hannah's breath shuddered. She wanted to believe him. His sincerity radiated from his voice, but beneath it, she could see the flicker of fear in his eyes. He was only 18. He had dreams of university, of leaving this town, of chasing something bigger. And yet here he was, grounding himself to her, with words heavy enough to crush them both. "What about my parents?" she asked quietly. Rio's jaw tightened. He looked away, as if picturing the storm already brewing in the Murakami household. Her father, stern and traditional, a man who measured respect in actions, not words. "We'll tell them," Rio said finally. "It's better if I go with you. I'll explain everything." Her chest tightened. "He'll hate you." "Then he can hate me," Rio replied, standing straighter. "But he won't see me run away. I'll stand there. I'll prove to him that I'm serious." For the first time since the result appeared on the test strip, Hannah felt the smallest flicker of relief. Fear still clawed at her, but the idea of not facing it alone gave her strength. That evening, after school, they walked home together in silence. The sky was streaked with orange, the cicadas already crying in the trees. When they reached her house, Hannah stopped at the gate. Her mother's bicycle leaned against the wall, and through the window, she could see the glow of the television, ordinary life waiting to be shattered. "I'll talk to them tomorrow," Hannah said softly. "Tonight. I just need to prepare myself." Rio nodded. He hesitated, then squeezed her hand. Firm, steady. "No matter what happens, I'm here. I promise." She watched him walk away, his figure swallowed by the fading light. Inside the house, her parents' voices floated through the walls, mundane and familiar. Hannah pressed a hand to her stomach. For the first time, she imagined the faintest flutter of life within her, and she realized the future was already here, whether she was ready or not. The night stretched endlessly. Hannah lay awake, staring at the ceiling, as the faint hum of the refrigerator echoed through the house. Her parents' voices had quieted hours ago, replaced by the steady rhythm of her father's snore from the adjoining room. She curled beneath the covers, clutching the pillow to her chest, her mind a storm. Every scenario played in her head: her father's fury, her mother's tears, the weight of shame pressing down on them all. When morning came, she dressed slowly, her uniform heavy on her shoulders. At breakfast, the clink of chopsticks on ceramic bowls seemed sharper than usual. Her father sat upright, posture as rigid as always, reading the newspaper, while her mother set miso soup on the table. Hana tried to eat, but the rice turned to ash on her tongue. She wanted to speak, but the words refused to come. School passed in a blur. Teachers' voices were muffled, the notes on the board meaningless. Rio sat beside her during lunch, trying to make small jokes, but she couldn't bring herself to laugh. She felt the weight of what was coming pressing down on both of them. That evening, she gathered her courage. When her parents finished dinner, she cleared her throat. "Oda-san, Oka-san, I need to talk to you." Her father folded his newspaper. His gaze was sharp, steady. "What is it?" Hana's hands trembled as she gripped the table. Her mother leaned forward, sensing the gravity in her daughter's voice. Hana swallowed hard, then whispered, "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was suffocating. Her mother's hand froze halfway to her teacup. Her father's expression didn't shift, but his eyes darkened, unreadable. Hana forced herself to continue, her voice breaking. "It's Ryo. He's my classmate. He knows, and he wants to take responsibility." Her mother covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes welling. "Hana," but her father spoke first. His tone was low, controlled, like a blade unsheathed. "Bring him here." Hana's breath hitched. "What?" "If he claims responsibility," her father said, his voice growing colder, "then let him prove it to me. Tomorrow evening, he will come to this house." Her mother touched his arm. "Maybe we should..." "No." His word cut through the room like thunder. "If this boy intends to tie himself to our daughter, then I will see what kind of man he is." Hana sat frozen, tears blurring her vision. She had known her father would be stern, but the weight in his voice terrified her. She nodded slowly, unable to argue. Later that night, her mother entered her room quietly. She sat beside Hana on the futon, smoothing her daughter's hair. "Your father," she hesitated. "He believes in strength, in proof. It's not cruelty. It's his way of protecting you." Hana's voice cracked. "I'm scared, Mama." Her mother sighed softly. "So am I. But Rio must face him. If he truly loves you, he will not falter." The next day at school, Hana told Rio. They sat together under the cherry tree in the courtyard, the petals falling around them like pale confessions. Rio listened in silence, his face pale but determined. "So, he wants to test me," Rio muttered, running a hand through his hair. "Fine, I'll go." Hana's eyes filled with tears. "He won't go easy on you?" "I don't need easy," Rio said firmly. "I just need him to see that I won't back down. Not from him, not from this." That evening, as the sun dipped low and the cicadas screamed in the trees, Hana waited at the gate, with her heart in her throat. The air was heavy, every second stretching painfully. Then she saw him, Rio, walking up the street, his steps steady, his expression firm. Her father was already waiting inside. The trial was about to begin. The sliding door creaked as Hana guided Rio inside. The air in the Murakami home was tense, thick with the scent of tatami mats and incense. Her father sat in the living room, back straight, arms crossed over his chest. His face was unreadable, carved from stone. Her mother stood near the kitchen, worry etched into every line of her posture. Rio bowed deeply the moment he entered. "Good evening, Mr. Murakami. Thank you for allowing me to come." Her father didn't move. He let the silence stretch until even the ticking of the wall clock grew deafening. Finally, he spoke. "Sit." Rio lowered himself onto the floor, sitting formally on his knees. Hana sat beside her mother, her heart hammering in her chest. Mr. Murakami's eyes were sharp, piercing through Rio like a sword. "You claim responsibility for what you have done to my daughter." "Yes, sir." Rio's voice was steady, though Hana could see his hands clenched tightly on his thighs. I love Hana. I will stand by her no matter what. Love. The word left her father's lips like a bitter taste. At 18, what do you know of love? Of duty? Of consequence? Rio didn't flinch. I may not know everything, sir, but I know enough to stay, to not run. The older man leaned forward slightly. And what future can you offer her? You have no job, no degree, nothing but childish promises. I'll work, Rio said firmly. I'll take any job I can. I'll study harder, find a way to support her and the baby. I won't quit. Her father's eyes narrowed. Words are wind. Do you expect me to entrust my daughter's life to mere declarations? Rio met his gaze. Then, let me prove it. The room fell silent again. Her father studied him for a long moment, then slowly rose to his feet. Come with me. He slid the back door open, revealing the small garden outside. The evening air was heavy with the scent of soil and pine. He gestured to the old shed where tools were kept. A man's strength is shown not in speeches, but in his labor. If you truly wish to stand beside Hana, show me. Rio followed without hesitation. Hana's heart clenched as she watched them step into the fading light. Her mother reached for her hand. Stay calm, she whispered. This is his way. Outside, Mr. Murakami pointed to a stack of heavy stones by the garden wall. Move them. To the other side, Rio blinked at the pile. Each stone was large, uneven, weathered from years of rain. There were at least 20. He bowed once. Yes, sir. He rolled up his sleeves and began. The first stone was heavier than he expected, scraping his palms as he lifted it. Sweat formed quickly on his forehead, but he gritted his teeth, carrying it across the yard. One by one, he moved them, refusing to pause, even when his breath came ragged. Her father watched silently, arms folded. Not once did he offer help. Not once did he look away. Hana pressed her hands to the glass door, watching Rio's body strain under the weight. Her chest ached with every stumble, every drop of sweat. She wanted to rush out, to beg her father to stop, but her mother's grip held her back. Let him, she whispered. By the time Rio set down the last stone, his shirt was drenched, his arms trembling. He straightened, chest heaving, and bowed again. It's done. Mr. Murakami stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Why did you not quit? Rio's voice was hoarse, but unwavering. Because Hana can't quit. She's carrying a life now. If she can endure that, then I can endure this. For the first time, something flickered in her father's eyes. Not approval, not yet, but a recognition. He nodded once, curtly, and turned back toward the house. The test was not over, but Rio had taken the first step. The garden was silent, except for the cicadas, their shrill cries filling the dusk. Rio stood bent over, his breath heavy, his arms trembling from the weight of the stones. Hana wanted to rush to him, to press a towel into his hands, to whisper that he had done enough, but her father's gaze pinned her in place. Follow me, Mr. Murakami said. His tone was calm, but there was no softness in it. Rio straightened, wiped his forehead with the back of his sleeve, and bowed before stepping inside. Her father led him past the living room, past the family altar, where incense still smoldered faintly, and into the narrow hallway that opened into the small workshop he kept at the back of the house. Tools hung neatly on the walls. Wooden boards were stacked in the corner. The faint smell of oil and sawdust lingered in the air. This, her father said, placing a weathered hammer on the workbench, was my father's. He taught me that a man's worth is not measured by his dreams, but by what his hands can build. Can you build, Hayashi? Rio looked at the hammer, then back at him. I can learn. Learning is not enough. Mr. Murakami set a plank of wood on the bench and gestured sharply. Make it strong. Show me you can create something that lasts. Rio picked up the hammer. His hands shook, not just from exhaustion, but from the weight of expectation pressing down on him. He measured the board clumsily, adjusted the nails, and began to work. The sound of metal striking wood echoed through the workshop, uneven at first, then steadier as he found rhythm. Sweat dripped down his face, but he didn't stop. Hana watched from the doorway, her heart clenched tight. Each strike felt like a battle, each breath a test of his will. Her mother stood behind her, silent but watchful, her hand lightly resting on Hana's shoulder, as if to remind her, patience. Minutes stretched into an hour. By the time Rio stepped back, a small but sturdy wooden stool stood on the bench. Its edges were rough, imperfect, but it held firm when he pressed on it. "It's not beautiful," Rio admitted, his chest rising and falling. "But it will hold." Her father examined it, his fingers tracing the uneven surface. Then he looked at Rio, his eyes narrowing. "Why are you doing this? You could walk away. No one would blame you. You are young. Your life is just beginning. Why tie yourself down with my daughter's burden?" Rio straightened, gripping the hammer tightly. "Because it's not a burden, it's ours. She didn't choose this alone. I won't abandon her. If you need proof, then I'll keep proving myself again and again, until you believe me." The room fell into silence. Her father's jaw tightened. For a long moment, he simply stared at Rio, as if weighing his words against some unspoken measure of honor. Finally, he set the stool back on the bench and walked past him toward the door. "You will return tomorrow," he said without turning. "There is more I must know." Rio bowed deeply. "Yes, sir." Hana let out a shaky breath. She hadn't realized she'd been holding. Rio's eyes met hers briefly as he left the workshop, tired, worn, but steady. That night, Hana sat alone in her room, her mind replaying every moment. She thought of her father's cold tests, of Rio's strained hands, of the quiet determination in his voice. She pressed her palms against her stomach, whispering into the darkness, "Please, let him be enough." For in her father's eyes, the final judgment had not yet been given. The next evening, the air was heavy with summer heat. Hana sat by the window, her hands clenched together, waiting for the sound of Rio's footsteps. When it came, slow, steady against the gravel path, her heart lurched. She rose to greet him, but her father was already at the door. "Come," Mr. Murakami said curtly. Rio bowed and entered, the faint scent of sawdust still clinging to his uniform from yesterday's work. He followed Hana's father into the living room. This time, no tools, no stones, no tests of muscle. Only silence, broken by the soft hum of the cicadas outside. Mr. Murakami sat across from him, his back rigid, his eyes sharp. "I've seen your strength," he said. "I've seen your hands try to build. But strength fades, muscles fail. What endures is resolve. So I will ask you now, with no hammers, no stones, are you prepared to throw away your own future for my daughter?" Rio inhaled slowly, his gaze unwavering. "Not throw away, sir. Share. My future is with her. If that means giving up dreams I once had, then so be it. New dreams will come, as long as they're with Hana." Her father's brow furrowed. "You speak as though it is simple. Marriage, fatherhood, responsibility. Do you understand the weight of it?" Rio's voice did not waver. "No, sir, not fully. I don't think anyone our age can. But I know this. I won't run. Even if I stumble, even if I fail, I'll get up again. Because Hana and the baby deserve that much." For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Hana's father leaned forward, his voice lowering. "What will you do if I forbid this? If I tell you to leave her and never come back?" Hana gasped softly, her hands trembling. Rio turned to her father, his jaw set. I would respect your words, but I wouldn't leave her, because my promise is not only to you, it is to Hana, and I cannot break it. Her father's eyes narrowed, searching him as though trying to pierce through to the marrow of his soul. Then, at last, the edges of his stern mouth softened, not into a smile, but into something less unyielding. He rose slowly, his presence towering over the room. Stand, Hayashi. Ryo obeyed, his knees stiff from kneeling. Mr. Murakami stepped close enough that Hana held her breath. Then he placed a heavy hand on Ryo's shoulder. I will not call you a man yet, but you have shown me that you are not a boy. If you wish to stay by my daughter, you will earn that right every day. Do not think this trial is over. It has only begun. Ryo bowed deeply, voice thick with relief. Yes, sir. Thank you. Hana's eyes burned with tears. She covered her mouth, afraid to let the sob escape, but her mother's gentle hand wrapped around hers, steadying her. For the first time, she saw her father not only as the unbending pillar of their household, but as a man who had carried his own fears, his own hopes for her future. And for the first time, she saw Ryo stand tall beside him, not as a reckless boy, but as someone who could shoulder the same weight. That night, as the cicadas sang and the stars blinked faintly above the quiet street, Hana lay awake, listening to the soft voices of her parents in the other room. No shouting, no accusations, only the low hum of two adults speaking of tomorrow. She pressed her hands gently over her stomach. For the first time since that night with the test, she felt not only fear, but something else, hope. A fragile, trembling hope that maybe, just maybe, they could face what was coming together. And in the darkness, her heart whispered, "We'll be okay."